around 2,000 workers here in the Savannah area that are going to be part of this National International Longshoremen's Association strike. I'm going to step out and give you guys a little look at what we've got going on here. Now, this is just a fraction of the 45,000 members of the ILA that are striking nationally. There's no police presence here, so people are pretty much doing what they have to do to get to the other side of the road. They are taking it upon themselves to drive over the median and get onto the other side of Abercorn Street, but there really is no other option for anything to do right now. I'm going to step out and give you a look at this tree in the road. I mean, you can see that it's really massive. It is absolutely blocking up the way. Do you have any contact information for the folks at E-Green?
I stopped full communication with them.
Okay.
I don't have no more communication with them. I think they even left Savannah.
If I'm the juror, I'm going to be using deductive reasoning with all of this evidence that we have. And then you also can't discredit just the fact, again, Simon never outright confessed to it, but she was caught in so many lies so many times, and they had to be wondering what exactly she had to lie about. Representative Carter called today a sad day, seeing a former president be arrested, fingerprinted, and potentially having a mugshot taken. What is CETA's responsibility to make sure that things like this aren't happening in their properties? Tyler, this verdict came down less than 30 minutes ago, and it looks like the prosecutors are actually walking out right now. We can see Tim Dean, who secured this conviction, leaving the courthouse right now. Leilani Simon found guilty on all 19 counts in that indictment.
WTOC investigative reporter Shea Schrader has been digging into the suspect's background.
She joins us now live from the newsroom with what she's learned so far.
Yes, Mike, Don Jabbar, who was 42 years old and from Texas, attended college right here in Georgia and was married in the state for about 3 years before divorcing his now ex-wife. But since 2022, they have received 8 violations from the USDA. 3 of those were considered critical violations.
There was some media devices, computers and flash drives taken, and then those were searched where there was found child pornography.
Did you have child pornography on your computer?
No, ma'am.
Well, our WTOC Investigates team first told you that there have been more than 53 EMS calls to the Hyundai megasite in Bryan County since April of 2023. 14 of those calls were for traumatic injuries. We've spoken to several people that work at the plant that say there is not enough concern for safety on the site. WTOC Investigates. Shea Schrader live in the studio now. And Shea, that story doesn't end there.
Yes, Mike, the workers that I've spoken with say that they feared for their safety day in and day out on the Hyundai site. So why not just walk away? More than half a dozen people that have ties to the site tell me that many of the workers feel trapped and exploited because of their immigration status. A leg being run over by a forklift, a conveyor belt crush, and a fatal fall. Bryan County and OSHA records show a tough reality for workers at the Hyundai megasite. Fernando Garcia and Kevin Souza worked on the site in the fall of 2023. The two, who have been working in construction for 28 and 26 years respectively, say they've never been on a job site so unsafe. Did you ever consider, because of the safety of the site, walking away from the job, or did you ever see other people walk away?
A lot of other people walked away, but truthfully, if we would have walked away, I mean, then, you know, who's going to, get pictures of all this and get recordings.
Recordings like this one, a conversation Garcia captured between himself and a foreman on the site, explaining that you can get hired even if you're undocumented.
Y no importa, ¿verdad? Con papeles, sin papeles, ¿verdad?
Pero no le diga así directamente.
No.
Ni le diga que yo le dije.
No, tranquilo, pero no importa, ¿verdad? Yo le digo que lo llame.
It doesn't matter. But Souza says it does, saying workers' undocumented status on the site is what keeps them there despite all the safety risks. The bigger concern is deportation.
We were up in the lift one day, and I guess there was a supposed ICE raid. Well, we're looking down out the lift, and I mean, people are just bolting across the field, hopping the fence on 16, running towards the parking lot. And we're like, what in the world is going on? And then somebody said ICE is on site. And it actually shut a lot of the job down for 2 days because all the workers fled.
The panic of workers at the plant may have just been the result of a rumor, as Immigrations and Customs Enforcement says they haven't had any enforcement activities at the Hyundai site since construction started. We also requested copies of any visas issued for work on the site from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, but that request was denied. Some immigrant workers are fighting back against what they call exploitation on the megasite. Jonathan Rincon, who says he came to the United States from Colombia for work, filed a lawsuit against Hyundai subcontractor Syscon and their subcontractors H&B USA and PPE Trading Co. The lawsuit alleges that Rincon, along with another worker, were never paid raises that they were owed and were never given overtime pay despite regularly working over 40 hours a week.
La verdad, la forma de ellos. It was really hard. They treat us very different. They will talk to us like if we were in the army. They would call us names, many times undocumented.
The parties settled the lawsuit, with PPE Trading Co. agreeing to pay out over $43,000, including back wages and attorney's fees. The settlement hasn't been approved by a judge yet, but when it is, the company has 48 hours to pay. But the lack of pay wasn't the only issue Rincon had on the site. During work, he says that he often underwent verbal and at one point physical abuse.
Have you ever worked on a job site like that before where you were treated this way?
¿Habías trabajado en un lugar donde te trataran de esa manera?
No.
It was really hard for us, but you know, we need to work, so sometimes we have to take that and keep working. And it got to the point where one time one of the Korean supervisors raised his hand on me and became physical, and after that they were trying to find a way to get rid of me, and they finally did.
A 2021 report by the Center for American Progress shows there were nearly 1.6 million immigrants working in construction, and nearly 500,000 of them were undocumented. Darwin Bonilla, a workers' rights advocate, provides aid to immigrant workers and came to Bryan County after he says he heard too many reports to ignore. He helped Rincon get in touch with legal help.
This is probably the biggest job site that I found where that many workers are being mistreated and exploited.
Part of the safety risk that immigrant workers face at the job site has to do with language. Bryan County records show in several cases, EMS workers were unable to communicate with injured people on the Hyundai site due to language barriers. OSHA records also show, in the case of Sungwon, a Hyundai subcontractor that was fined for serious safety violations, an employee of their subcontractor, JGL, fell 20 feet after disconnecting his safety harness and climbing onto a conveyor. A Sungwon manager wrote in a report to the Department of Labor that his company would typically give safety training to subcontractors, but in this instance, they, quote, provided our safety policy to JGL and asked them to train their guys because not all of the employees could speak English. We do not have a copy of our safety policy in Spanish.
Many times, again, we just talk about the immigrant workers, and nothing has been said about these companies and contractors abusing the workers that come to this country.
Who do you think is ultimately responsible for preventing this kind of abuse from happening?
It should be whoever is in charge of the plant. In this case, if Hyundai is the contractor, they're ultimately responsible for everything that goes on inside. They should be, they should know who is at the plant all the time, from the companies that are there to the workers that are performing the work.
These guys that are working there, as far as undocumented, you know, they have some rights too. I mean, they really do.
We reached out to Hyundai asking for an on-camera interview about the allegations of undocumented workers being present and exploited on the site. They declined to interview but sent us a statement that says in part, quote, HMGMA requires all parties with whom it directly contracts to ensure that all personnel performing work on its premises have been properly verified according to all applicable federal and state employment and immigration laws. I did also send follow-up questions asking specifically what Hyundai does to ensure their subcontractors and contractors aren't utilizing illegal labor. They did not respond to those questions. Now, we are going to continue to dig on this story, so stick with us as we continue to learn more. You can also see Hyundai's full statement on this story on our website, WTOC.com. Reporting in the studio, Shea Schrader, WTOC News.
All right, thank you, Shea. And you can find this report and Shea's others report from 5 p.m. by going to our website, WTOC.com. Just look for the WTOC Investigates page under the News tab. Several major updates to a WTOC investigation we first brought to you in April. Allegations of labor trafficking right here in Savannah now being investigated at the federal level. Our WTOC, Shea Schrader, looking into this, and after she aired an original story, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation took on the case. And here's Shea with a closer look.
That's right. And in just the past several weeks, the GBI has confirmed to me that the United States Department of Homeland Security is now investigating. We've also learned that the alleged trafficking was taking place in a warehouse on a property owned by the Savannah Economic Development Authority. We interviewed people who say that they're victims in the case. We have blurred their faces for safety reasons, and because they don't speak English, we communicated with them through a translator. The man translating the Chinese language does not wish to be identified. WTOC's own Ryan Tismaneski translated the Spanish language.
We will follow this, constantly keep in touch, whatever we need to do, because this is absolutely deplorable, assuming this is going on.
A little over a week after our first story aired, the Savannah Police Department was called back to the warehouse where more than 13 Chinese nationals say they were brought to work and never got paid. We went to the warehouse. There, we met a dozen more immigrants with similar stories.
Do they know the name of the company?
They all tell us that they were brought to the warehouse through various staffing agencies to work for a company which, according to a police report, is called eGreen Transportation. But who is eGreen Transportation? A website with that name says it's a transportation and logistics company that has roots all over the world, including in Savannah and in California, where the company's website says they're based. According to California state records, the business is officially registered as eGreen Transport Corporation to a person named Sang-Wen Chen. However, if you look up eGreen Transport Corporation in Georgia, there's no record of the company. So we started to track down the owners by finding out who owns the warehouse. In the search for that answer, we found that the warehouse is operating on a property owned by the Savannah Economic Development Authority. The warehouse itself is not owned by CETA, but Safavia, a New York-based furniture company. Records show that CETA began leasing the property to Safavia in 2016.
We just have title to the property so that we can provide the abatement.
Georgia law doesn't allow cities or counties to give ad valorem property tax exemptions to companies directly, but they can give such exemptions to development authorities like CETA. So by extension, companies leasing from development authorities can get a tax break. Trip Tollison, the CEO of CETA, says that helps bring businesses to the area.
In this case, we did a 10-year property tax abatement for Safavia, and thankfully we won the business.
We reached out to Safavia asking about their relationship with eGreen Transport Corporation. They told us they don't know anything about eGreen, but they do sublease the warehouse to a company called Mayrock Incorporated, a Virginia-based company. However, according to California state records, Mayrock Incorporated also has a business license in the state. The address on their website is the same as the one on eGreen's website, and the records show the California branch of Mayrock is operated by Chen, the same person eGreen Transport Corporation is operated by. Safavia declined to comment further. Do you have any oversight when they begin subleasing a property?
In this case, when we do the verification, when we go through the annual process, they are to disclose and let us know what is happening with the entire square footage of the facility. Which we've done in this case, and they've told us about who they're subleasing to with a small portion of what they have. And then so far so good, or at least what we've been told, so far so good. And unfortunately now there seems to be something going on.
We also found that eGreen Transport Corporation is being sued in California court for a laundry list of alleged offenses, including fraud, receiving stolen property, unjust enrichment, negligent interference with prospective economic relations, and intentional interference of prospective economic relations. Named in the California lawsuit, along with Chen, is Monica Wang. The workers we spoke with identified her as the general manager of eGreen in Savannah.
There's a manager, a female manager. Her name is Monica. This is a female manager. There's 3 Chinese that they're together, partnered together.
Monica's super rare to see her actually at the warehouse. She's never really there. Whenever she is there, if you do come up to her, she'll just kind of shoo you away. She's really only there when like disasters happen. So when the police came, she was there.
We tried to speak with her when we were at the warehouse, but no one would answer the door. We also went to some of the staffing companies employees had been recruited by, trying to get in touch.
Do you have any contact information for the folks at eGreen?
I stopped full communication with them.
Okay.
I don't have no more communication with them. I think they even left Savannah.
All in all, the alleged victims estimate that dozens of people are collectively owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they tell us that life has been tough after working for weeks with nothing to show for it.
In this country, if you don't work, you don't eat. So they're looking to work somewhere else right now.
The people we spoke with say they have hope that they'll see justice. After WTOC's original story aired, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation opened a case into the situation. Since then, they've confirmed to us that Homeland Security has taken over some of the alleged victims, telling us they've spoken to the agency's investigators working the case.
They ask about when they got here, what did they work, or what kind of work they performed. Also the relationship that they're asking him, the relationship between the I guess the employment agency and the workplace, and then also who's responsible, the main responsible person.
What is CETA's responsibility to make sure that things like this aren't happening in their properties?
If tenants or occupiers or the owners of that property are not doing or at least applying good business practices, we want to get to the bottom of it and make sure it doesn't exist. In this particular case, we're definitely trying to figure that out. If this practice is going on, we want to make sure it's shut down immediately. The tenant is removed, all of those things that you can think of. But I've got the confidence in the law enforcement route. If Homeland Security is really diving into this, I have the confidence they'll get to the bottom of it. But from the tenant all the way down, we're going to be very cooperative. We're going to do all that we can to make sure this is not going on.
CETA tells us that in the past several years, they've ended the practice of allowing subleases on their properties. But the sublease in this case existed before that. Safavia's tax abatement ends in December of 2026, and at that point, CETA says they'll no longer have any involvement with the property. Now, we did also reach out to Homeland Security. They told us it's their policy not to confirm or deny active investigations. WTOC will continue to follow this case, so stick with us on air and online for the latest updates. For WTOC News, I'm Shea Schrader.